Hi everyone, this is SAMARJIT Kushwaha, and many people are texting to me on my WhatsApp number, and everyone's demand is that something should be talked concerning English literature. Today I'm going to talk about English literature. Then the first topic on which I'll be talking is the Anglo Saxon period. And anyway, seeing the thumbnail, you must have come to know on which topic I'm going to talk. And there are many students who cannot do regular classes, do regular offline classes, and some students also complain that they do offline classes, but after a few days, they forget all the things that they study in their class. So by the way, it is the demand of the students that I should make some videos on YouTube so that they can do their studies by watching video whenever they want. And in such a way, our first topic will be Anglo Saxon period. It's very important to know about Celts tribe. That what is this Celts tribe? Celts is a sort of tribe, and before reading this topic, then firstly we have to discuss about Celts, known as Britons and Gaels, and the name of Britain is also taken from Brythons. And various questions come to our mind when we think of the mighty Celts tribes of ancient Europe and their presence, whether they were according to the Romans uncivilized and ordinary. Did they make any invention during the Iron Age? And the most important thing is whether they fought without clothes, as Romans believed. There is no doubt that the legal system ran smoothly during the time of the Celts tribes. And when the Celts committed any kind of crime, they had to pay some special amount as punishment. Celts were known to celebrate during funerals, during a lot when a child was born. An important reason for this being that the Celts were very superstitious and believing that the world they live in, there was a different world, and after death, they will go to the other world as heaven. So their caste was celebrated after death. So during the birth of a child, they used to mourn because they believed that this is the reincarnation of the child, and this is the world was hell. So they mourned the birth of a child, and the kids were not knowledgeable in the field of medicine. They used to consult wise women and priests during illness, and they used to chant mantras and wear amulets to ward off diseases and evil spirits. Then children who urinated on the bed were fed dead rats. So superstitious were the Celts, and they knew nothing about microorganisms. They had an astonishing ability to memorize and recite poems. Then, although some suggests that it was not easy for them to become a powerful poets or a great poem, great poets. Those who wanted to be a poet had to lie on the floors, on the floors or floor with a stone on their stomach and recite poems over and over again. And this process used to go on months or even years. And satires were believed to have supernatural power, and openly ridiculing the monarchy because of greed or lack of leadership. Comic poets were humiliated at the end of the Celtic era, and the Celts were not as smart or low-brained as one is heard of. And they used wood for trade routes and built wooden roads which have rotated after centuries and were not clean. For the Celts used to take regular baths and cut their body hairs, especially before meals and wars. But the list of myths did not stop there, and you might have heard that Celts went to fight in war without clothes, but it is just a historical myth and created by the Romans. The Celts wore comfortable and light clothing that provided no protection during the battle. That's why, while Others wore armor made of leather, and historians also state that the Celts used to protect themselves. For this, protective shields with iron chains and was prepared. The Celts remained in England until about 55 BC, and a large number of Celts had migrated and moved to an Iceland, now known as England. And Rome used to be a very big power at that time, and the Romans used to attack that Iceland again and again, which is known today as England. And very easily the Romans conquered it. At that time, Romans used to use Latin language, which greatly influenced the language of England. And today's scientists and historians believe that today's English is made up of 29% Latin language, and we have to mainly talk about Anglo Saxon period, which is also known as the Old English period. And this period is started after the Romans, and later the Romans left England because of Visigoths tribes. It's also sort of tribes, Visigoths, Visigoths, Visigoths. Then who had attacked in Rome. So the military of Rome moved from England to Rome because the Visigoths tribes had invaded Rome, and the Romans' land was being snatched. In this way, there was no army in the England, and there were Celts, but they were very weak, and they were not able to make their marks at that time. There was no powerful ruler of England, due to which anyone could have made his mark. And that is why many tribes started coming to England, and in which two tribes are special: Picts and Scots. Pict is also a name of tribes. Scot is also a name of tribes. Then Picts came from north and Scots from Ireland. And so many tribes started coming to England. The Celts had become very big, and they could not face this tribe. So the Celts tribes gave an invitation to the Anglo Saxon. Then that they came to England so that Celts could be protected. The Celts, the Celts tribes. Sometimes it is called Celts or Celts. Both are same. Celts, Celts or Celts. Then the Celts tribes did it by mistake that they invited the Anglo-Saxon, because the Anglo-Saxon were also invaders. Although on the invitation of Celts, the Anglo-Saxon came to England and made their rule, and England got a new ruler. And there were three types of tribes in Anglo-Saxon. First is Angles, second is Saxon, and third is Jutes. And the Jutes tribe did not play a big role, so their name does not come up again and again, and the whole of England was dominated by the Anglo-Saxon. And now it is necessary to know in a little detail that the Romans were in England. After that, how the Anglo-Saxon came, and as you know that the Celts had invited these three tribes: Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. Although the Celts were also not from Britain, but later became the original inhabitants of there. And the people of the Pict tribes were attacking the Celts. So the Celts had invited the Anglo-Saxon for their protection. Even you have understood now. That you guys will not have any problem in getting till here. Then now let's get in a little more detail that ahead of this, the Celts were the first to live in Britain. This is a type of tribe, and that was living in Britain for a long time, and nothing is known about them when this tribe came. But this tribe was the first to live in Britain after the Celts. The Roman first. The Roman first came, whose period is said to about 43 to 410 AD. And you can note if you want in your copy. This is very important to the point of to the objective point of view. Then first came whose period their period was is said to 43 to 410 AD. And the Romans ruled Britain for a long time, and they brought Christianity with them. At that time, it was known only as Britain. There was no province as England, and the people of the Celts tribes were also called Britons, and Britain was named after them, as I told you. And when the Romans were in the Britain, the people of the Picts tribes started attacking the Celts, and they were very cruel and wild. At that time, when the people of the Picts tribes were attacking the Romans, they had built a wall named Hadrian's Wall. It's also important to the objective point of view. You can note it in your notebook. Hadrian's Wall to avoid attack of the Picts tribes. And Norman people would use Latin language at that time. Literature was written in Latin language, but if we talk about if you talk about English literature, then it was written after the arrival of Anglo Saxon. But the condition was such that the Roman people, they had come to Britain, but at the same time, Roman was attacked by the Visigoths. Visigoths is also a sort of tribe, as I told you, and the name of the Roman king was Honorius. It is also important, Honorius, okay, who told the Celts that they protect themselves, because Honorius went to Rome with his military, because he had to protect his own land. And when the Romans left Britain and went back to Rome, then the people of the Picts tribes attacked Britain, because the Celts were very weak at that time, and the people of the Celts tribes did not have the courage to face the Picts. And in this odd situation, the Celts tribes asked for help from three tribes and invited them to come to Britain. And the name of those three tribes were Angles. First is Angles, as I told you. First Angles, second is Saxons, and third is Jutes. And these three tribes reached Britain via ocean from northern Germany. Then these three tribes reached Britain in the 5th century AD. It is this time is also important. You can note whatever I am telling you. Then two of these tribes, Anglo Saxon, ruled England for 600 years. They used to use Old English language, and a direct example of this that this Old English is similar to German. It is similar to German language, which is rarely taught in today's date. And now let's talk about these three tribes again. First Angels, first Angels. We will talk about firstly something about Angels. That first angel who came from Germany, and England was named after the Angels. And second the Saxons, who came from a place called Saxony, and the Jutes from Denmark. In the initial stage, the Angles and Saxon came to help the Celts, but later the Anglo-Saxon kicked the Celts out of England, and in this way, the dominance of the Anglo-Saxon on Britain then increased, and the Anglo-Saxon divided Britain into 7 parts. Then in these seven places, there was a place called Wessex, 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 and then which governed the rest of the provinces. The Britain was divided into 7 parts, whose name are as follows. That first is Wessex, second is Sussex, third is Northumbria, fourth East Anglia, fifth Essex, and sixth Mercia, seventh is Kent. Then Wessex is the most important of these 7 provinces. Now we have to understand about literature from here. Then they used to narrate stories orally instead of writing literature. Then later on they developed their writing skills, and their writing skills were taken from Roman machineries. They developed their alphabet from Roman machinery. After that they wrote many books such as epic poetry, hagiography, sermons, riddles, Bible's translation, chronicles. From that time till today, we have received 400 manuscripts written by them. The most important of these works which are Widsith and Beowulf. And the writer is unknown, but this till date it is not known who wrote it, and there are 3182 lines inside Beowulf, and it is also considered as the national epic of England, talking about important writers ahead of this, that two important writers were found at that time, whose name were Caedmon. First is Caedmon, second is Sinwulf. And Caedmon had translated the Bibles, and Sinwulf worked on various religions. But now, if we look at the poetry and prose, then it is known that why his poetry and prose were famous. Then his poetry and prose were divided into four parts. There are four books regarding this. Now here is to known about these books, that the first is the Exeter book, and this is also a manuscript. All these things are about poetry. Whatever poem you get from the period of Anglo Saxon is found from the Exeter book, and following which the second is the Junius manuscripts, and it is also known as Caedmon manuscripts, because all the Bibles that Caedmon had translated, all of it is found inside the Junius manuscripts. Following which the third is Worsley manuscripts. You can note it. It is also very important, and this book also gives information about prose and poetry. And the fourth is Norval Codex. You need to remember the fourth names, whatever I told you. And it is also called Beowulf manuscripts, because all the work of Beowulf is available from inside the codex itself. And the most important book among these four is Exeter book. Exeter is most important, and because all the poetry available at the time come from the Exeter book, that is why the Exeter book is considered important. And apart from Caedmon or Sinwulf, there are two other importance that are Bede and Alfred. Bede means Bede. Bede is the name of an author or writer, you can say. Bede, Bede. First is Bede, and second is Alfred. Bede did the translation, wrote the history, and all the events of that time were written by Bede. And Alfred comes at number 2, which is also called Alfred the Great, Alfred the King. He wrote the Chronicle. Alfred used Latin language and Old English language in his book, which is known only as Old English. And now let's try to know about his poem from here. Then how his poem was, and what kind of poem those people would write. They used to write heroic, religious, love poems, and also used to write chronicle. It was started by Alfred, and he also wrote riddles, and one of the most important works of that time. And that was the Battle of Maldon, Maldon, Battle of Maldon. It is also important. You can note it in your notebook, but nothing is known of its initial and final manuscripts. Apart from this, if you talk about his style, then his style was alliteration, simile, metaphor, and there was no rhyming in his poem. There is no rhyme in their poems, along with poetry. And he also wrote a lot of prose, and most of his prose translation were done. Following which we talk about the Normans. Then in 1066, about 1066 and 1066, and the soldiers who lived in Norman came to England. Their number was about 7,000, and their emperor also came with them, whose name was William I. And when William I came to England along with 7,000 soldiers, he had also brought 700 ships with him. And at that time, the king of England was Harold II. At that time, there was a fiery battle between both Harold II and William I. Then that war is known as the Battle of Hastings, and Hural II died in this war, and William I became the king there, the king over there. And after the death of Hural, the Anglo Saxon period ended, and from there the Anglo Norman period started. And those who were Anglo-Norman, their language was French. So those people started using French language along with Old English and this part. And then I would like to tell you that this part is being ended. And if you want to the next video, the next part, then I will definitely come with my another video. Then this video, if get a great response, then I'll definitely come with my another videos. Then thank you guys.